Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, looking out at the dark space ahead. The ship was huge, stretching over 1 kilometer long and packed with the most advanced weapons Earth had ever built. 2,000 crew members worked inside its metal halls, all trained for war and ready for anything. The Indomitable was on a routine patrol near the edge of human space. Chen had been captain for 3 years now, ever since the war on Mars ended. She was 35 years, old with short black hair and calm eyes that missed nothing. Her crew trusted her completely because she had led them through many dangerous battles. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep from the control panels. Lieutenant Marcus Webb sat at the sensor station, watching the screens that showed everything happening around them for millions of miles. Suddenly his screen lit up with new contacts. "Captain, I'm picking up 12 unknown ships approaching our position," Webb announced. His voice was steady, but Chen could hear the tension underneath. Chen walked over to look at the sensor display. 12 red dots moved toward them in a perfect formation. They were still far away, but getting closer fast. "How long until they reach us?" she asked. "About 15 minutes at their current speed," Webb replied. "They're definitely not human ships. The design is completely different from anything in our database." Commander Elena Rodriguez, the ship's weapons officer, looked up from her station. She was a tall woman with dark skin and silver hair, a veteran of many space battles. "Should I charge the weapons, Captain?" "Not yet," Chen said. "Let's try talking to them first. Open a channel on all frequencies." The communications officer, a young man named David Park, worked quickly at his console. "Channel open, Captain." Chen activated the ship's main transmitter. Her voice went out into space, carrying humanity's first message to an unknown alien race. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Indomitable. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly contact. Please respond." She sent the message in English, then in Spanish, Chinese, and Arabic. She also included mathematical sequences that any intelligent species should understand. The bridge crew waited in silence for a response. After 5 minutes, the alien ship sent back a message. The voice that came through the speakers was harsh and filled with anger. It spoke in broken English, as if the speaker had learned the language quickly from intercepted human communications. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Vextar of the hegemony of Zarteth. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Your species will submit to hegemony rule. You have 60 seconds to comply or face total destruction." The bridge fell silent. Chen felt her jaw tighten, but her voice remained calm when she spoke. "Admiral Vextar, this is human space. We do not recognize your authority here. You have 30 seconds to withdraw your ships before we consider you a hostile force." Rodriguez raised her eyebrows. "Captain, we're outnumbered 12-1. Chen looked at her weapons officer with a small smile. "Elena, how many enemy ships did we face at the Battle of Europa?" 43, Rodriguez replied, understanding her captain's point. "And how many survived?" "None, Captain." The alien voice came back through the speakers, even angrier than before. "Foolish humans, your single ship against our entire fleet? You will be destroyed for your arrogance." Chen walked back to her command chair and sat down. She had fought in 3 major wars before humanity reached the stars. She had seen entire fleets destroyed in minutes and watched brave soldiers die for their beliefs. These aliens had no idea what they were facing. The sensor officer announced that the alien ships were moving into attack formation. They spread out in a circle, trying to surround the Indomitable. It was a classic military tactic that worked well against most enemies. "Captain," said Dr. James Harrison, the ship's science officer, "I'm analyzing their ship designs through the telescope array. Their technology appears to be significantly less advanced than ours. Their weapons look like basic plasma cannons and kinetic projectiles." Chen nodded. Humanity had developed its weapons through centuries of warfare. Every gun, every missile, every defensive system had been tested in actual combat against other humans who were just as smart and just as determined to win. These aliens looked like they had never faced an enemy that could fight back effectively. "All stations, prepare for battle. Chen announced over the ship's communication system. Her voice reached every crew member on the Indomitable. This is not a drill. We are about to engage unknown hostile forces. Remember your training and do your duty. Throughout the ship, 2,000 men and women moved to their battle stations. In the weapons bays, massive railguns powered up with a deep humming sound. In the engineering sections, the ship's nuclear reactors increased their output to feed the hungry weapon systems. In the medical bay, doctors prepared for possible casualties. The alien ships completed their encirclement. Admiral Vextar's voice came over the radio one last time. Humans, this is your final warning. Surrender now or be destroyed. Captain Chen looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These were people who had volunteered to serve on the edge of human space, knowing they might face unknown dangers. They had trained for years to operate the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. Not one of them showed fear. Communications, send them our response, Chen said. Lieutenant Park nodded and opened the channel. Chen's voice was calm and clear as she spoke into the microphone. Admiral Vextar, this is Captain Chen. We are humans. We do not surrender. If you want a fight, you will get one. But understand this. You have made a terrible mistake today. She turned to her weapons officer. Rodriguez, target their lead ship. Prepare to fire on my command. Weapons ready, Captain, Rodriguez replied. Her hands moved over her control panel with practiced skill. The countdown in Chen's head reached 0. The alien ships began to move forward, preparing to attack. In the distance, she could see their weapons charging up, creating bright lights along their hulls. Chen took a deep breath and gave the order that would change galactic history forever. Fire! The Indomitable's main guns spoke for the first time in alien space. Beams of pure energy lanced out across the darkness, followed by streams of metal projectiles moving at incredible speeds. The human warship had just shown the galaxy what happened when someone challenged Earth's children. The battle for humanity's place in the galaxy had begun. Admiral Vextar could not believe what he had just heard. In 30 years of conquest, no single ship had ever refused to surrender when facing a full hegemony battle fleet. His species, the Zarteth, had conquered 17 star systems using the same tactics. Overwhelming force and superior numbers always won. Vextar was a tall reptilian creature with green scales and bright yellow eyes. Battle scars covered his arms and chest, proof of his many victories. He had personally led the conquest of 6 different worlds. The idea that one human ship would dare to fight his entire fleet seemed impossible. All ships, assume attack formation. Delta, Vextar ordered through his communication system. His voice carried the authority of someone who had never lost a battle. Surround the human vessel and prepare for coordinated assault. The 12 Zarteth warships moved into position around the Indomitable. Each ship was about half the size of the human vessel, but they were fast and heavily armed. Their hulls were painted with red and gold war symbols, as was tradition when claiming a new star system for the hegemony. Commander Tekvar, Vextar's second-in-command, looked worried. Admiral, the human ship is not trying to run. Most species attempt to escape when they see our formation. Vextar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through his bridge. These humans are either very brave or very stupid. It makes no difference. Their ship will be destroyed, and their people will serve the hegemony. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Chen watched the alien ships take their positions. She had seen this type of encirclement tactic before during the war on Mars. It was effective against enemies who panicked or tried to run, but it had serious weaknesses against a ship that was prepared to fight. Tactical analysis, Commander Rodriguez, Chen ordered. Rodriguez worked quickly at her station, using the ship's advanced computers to study the alien vessels. The Indomitable's sensors could see through most types of armor and shielding, giving them a complete picture of each enemy ship's capabilities. Captain, their technology appears to be roughly equivalent to our designs from 15 years ago, Rodriguez reported. They're using basic energy shields and conventional projectile weapons. No stealth systems, no exotic matter weapons, no dimensional warfare capabilities. Chen felt a moment of disappointment. Humanity's greatest military minds had spent years preparing for the possibility of meeting advanced alien civilizations. They had developed weapons and defenses based on theoretical technologies that might exist. Instead, these aliens were using equipment that human forces had already surpassed. "Are you certain about this analysis?" Chen asked. Dr. Harrison looked up from his science station. "The data is very clear, Captain. Their ships are solid and well-built, but they're using technology we've already moved beyond. It's like they've perfected fighting enemies who can't fight back effectively." Chen understood immediately. The Zarteth had probably spent centuries conquering peaceful civilizations that had never developed serious military technology. They had become experts at overwhelming weak opponents with superior numbers and basic tactics. Humanity was different. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting other humans who were just as intelligent and creative. Every advance in weapons technology had been matched by advances in defensive systems. Every new tactic had been countered by better tactics. The human race had survived by constantly improving their ability to wage war. "Captain," said Lieutenant Webb from the sensor station, "the alien ships are powering up their weapons. They're preparing to fire." Chen looked around her bridge. Every member of her crew was ready for battle. They had trained for this moment for years, using computer simulations and live fire exercises. The Indomitable was the most advanced warship humanity had ever built, designed by people who understood war at the deepest level. "All stations, battle ready," Chen announced. "Charge all weapon systems. Raise deflector shields to maximum power." Throughout the ship, the crew prepared for combat. In the weapons bays, massive magnetic accelerators came online with a deep humming sound that could be felt through the ship's hull. Plasma cannon systems heated up to operational temperature. The ship's experimental weapons, technologies so advanced that only 3 ships in the human fleet carried them, began their startup sequences. The Indomitable's defensive systems activated as well. Gravitic field generators created invisible barriers around the ship that could deflect most types of incoming fire. Adaptive armor plating shifted and strengthened itself based on the type of weapons the ship was facing. Point defense turrets extended from hidden compartments ready to shoot down incoming missiles and fighters. Admiral Vextar watched the human ship with growing confusion. Most vessels tried to run when facing his fleet. Some tried to hide behind asteroids or space debris. A few had attempted to fight, but they usually positioned themselves for a desperate last stand. The human ship was doing none of these things. It sat calmly in space, apparently unconcerned about being surrounded by 12 enemy vessels. Its weapons were charging up, but there was no panic in its movements. It acted like a predator that had just found prey, not prey that had been cornered. "Admiral," said his weapons officer, "all ships report ready to fire. Should we begin the attack?" Vexitar hesitated for a moment. Something felt wrong about this situation. In his experience, confidence usually came from strength. But what strength could one ship have against 12? He pushed the feeling aside. The hegemony had never lost a fleet engagement. Numbers and firepower always won in the end. "All ships open fire," Vextar commanded. "Destroy the human vessel." 12 Zarteth warships fired at once. Plasma beams and kinetic projectiles filled the space around the Indomitable. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. The energy release lit up the darkness like an artificial star. On the Indomitable's bridge, warning lights flashed as the ship's computers detected incoming fire. But Captain Chen remained calm in her command chair, watching the tactical display with professional interest. "Impact in 3 seconds, Rodriguez announced. The alien weapon struck the Indomitable's shields and armor with tremendous force. The ship shook slightly from the impact, but the lights on the bridge never flickered. The gravitic shields absorbed most of the energy, while the adaptive armor easily handled the rest. Chen looked at the damage report on her screen. It showed minor surface scoring on the outer hull and a 2% reduction in shield strength. For a full fleet attack, the damage was almost laughably small. "Return fire," Chen said quietly. The Indomitable's main weapons fired for the first time in combat. What happened next would be remembered by both species for centuries to come. The moment Captain Chen gave the order to fire, the Indomitable unleashed weapons that the Zarteth had no names for. The ship's main magnetic accelerator cannons fired tungsten rods at 20% of light speed. Each rod was only the size of a telephone pole, but it carried the kinetic energy of a nuclear bomb. Commander Rodriguez had selected her targets carefully. The first tungsten rod struck the lead Zarteth ship directly in its center section. The alien vessel's shields, which had protected it through dozens of battles, collapsed instantly. The rod punched through the hull like it was made of paper, tearing through internal bulkheads and vital systems before exiting out the other side. The Zarteth ship exploded in a flash of white light. Pieces of metal and burning atmosphere scattered in all directions. The ship's crew of 300 died so quickly they never knew what hit them. Admiral Vextar stared in shock as his flagship's sister ship simply ceased to exist. "What weapon was that?" he demanded of his science officer. "I don't know, Admiral," the officer replied, his voice shaking. "Our sensors show it was some kind of kinetic projectile but moving at impossible speeds." Before Vextar could respond, the human ship fired again. This time plasma lances shot out from the Indomitable's secondary weapon systems. These were not the simple plasma bolts the Zarteth used, but focused beams of matter heated to millions of degrees and contained by magnetic fields. 2 more Zarteth ships died in seconds. The plasma lances cut through their hulls like hot knives through butter, melting through armor and superstructure until the ships broke apart from structural failure. The Zarteth had never seen weapons that could slice through their heavily armored vessels so easily. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Vextar screamed into his communicator. "Scatter formation." The remaining 9 alien ships tried to spread out, hoping to make themselves harder targets. It was a reasonable tactic against conventional weapons. But the Indomitable's targeting systems had been designed to track human fighter craft moving at high speed through asteroid fields and space debris. The fleeing Zarteth ships looked as easy to hit as stationary targets. On the human bridge, Rodriguez called out target information in a calm, professional voice. "Target 4, locked. Target 7, locked. Target 12, locked." Her hands moved over her control panel with practiced skill, directing the ship's various weapon systems. Chen watched the tactical display as red dots representing enemy ships began disappearing one by one. She felt no joy in the destruction, only the grim satisfaction of a job being done properly. "Continue firing, Commander. Let's finish this quickly." The Indomitable fired its experimental weapons for the first time in actual combat. Gravity bombs created localized distortions in space-time, crushing 2 Zarteth ships like empty cans. Nanite clouds, invisible to normal sensors, swarmed over another enemy vessel and began taking it apart at the molecular level. Dr. Harrison watched his instruments in fascination. "Captain, the nanites are completely disassembling the target ship's hull. They're converting the raw materials into more nanites and spreading to adjacent targets." "Time to total enemy fleet destruction?" Chen asked. Rodriguez checked her calculations. "At current rate of fire, approximately 8 more minutes, Captain." Admiral Vextar's fleet was dying around him with horrifying speed. Ships that had served the hegemony for decades were being destroyed by weapons that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. His own vessel shook as debris from a nearby explosion struck its hull. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the human ship," his communications officer reported. "Put it through," Vextar ordered. Captain Chen's face appeared on his main screen. She looked calm and professional, like someone discussing a routine business matter. "Admiral Vextar, I'm offering you one chance to surrender. Order your remaining ships to power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded." Vextar's yellow eyes burned with rage. "Never. The hegemony does not surrender to inferior species." Chen's expression didn't change. "Then you've chosen to die. I respect that choice." The transmission ended. Vextar turned to his weapons officer. "All ships ramming speed. If we cannot defeat them with weapons, we'll destroy them with our hulls." It was a desperate tactic, but sometimes desperation could overcome superior firepower. 6 Zarteth ships turned toward the Indomitable and accelerated to maximum speed. Their crews prepared for glorious death in service to the hegemony. The human ship's response was immediate and devastating. Point defense systems that had been designed to stop incoming missiles treated the charging vessels like oversized projectiles. Hundreds of small railguns opened fire simultaneously, filling space with a cloud of metal projectiles. The first ramming ship disintegrated under the focused fire, its hull torn apart by thousands of impacts. The second ship made it halfway to the target before its engines were destroyed, and it tumbled helplessly through space. The remaining 4 vessels never even got close. On the Indomitable's bridge, Lieutenant Webb announced the obvious. "All ramming attempts unsuccessful, Captain. Enemy ships destroyed or disabled." Chen nodded. "What's our status, Rodriguez?" "All weapon systems operating normally. Shield strength at 98%. No damage to report." Dr. Harrison looked up from his science station. "Captain, I'm detecting only one functional enemy vessel remaining. It appears to be Admiral Vextar's command ship, and it's heavily damaged." Chen studied the tactical display. The battle had lasted exactly 11 minutes and 37 seconds. 11 enemy ships had been completely destroyed. 1 remained, crippled and helpless. "Open a channel to the surviving ship," Chen ordered. "Admiral." Vextar's image appeared on the main screen again. His bridge was filled with smoke and sparks flew from damaged equipment. Green blood ran from a cut on his forehead, and his uniform was torn. "Admiral," Chen said, "your fleet is destroyed. Your ship is disabled. Will you surrender now, or do you prefer to die with honor?" Vextar looked around his ruined bridge. Most of his crew was dead or unconscious. His weapons were offline, his engines were destroyed, and his life support systems were failing. For the first time in his military career, he had been completely defeated. "I surrender," he said quietly. Chen nodded with respect. "Prepare to be boarded, Admiral. We'll provide medical assistance to your wounded and treat all prisoners according to military law." As the transmission ended, Chen turned to her crew. "Good work, everyone. Rodriguez, organize boarding parties. Harrison, prepare the medical bay for alien wounded. Webb, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've made first contact with a hostile alien species." She paused and looked out at the wreckage floating in space around them. "And tell them that first contact went exactly as planned." Admiral Vexitar sat in the medical bay of the Indomitable, his wounds treated by human doctors who worked with careful precision. His left arm was in a cast, and bandages covered the cuts on his face and chest. Around him, 23 other Zarteth survivors received similar care. Dr. Sarah Kim, the ship's chief medical officer, checked his vital signs with instruments he didn't recognize. "Your injuries are healing well, Admiral. Your species appears to have excellent natural recovery abilities." Vexitar looked at her with confusion. "Why are you helping us? We tried to destroy your ship." Dr. Kim paused in her work. "Because that's what humans do. We fight when we have to, but we don't kill unnecessarily. Once an enemy surrenders, they become our responsibility." 3 days had passed since the battle. Vextar had spent most of that time trying to understand what had happened to his fleet. The humans had destroyed 11 warships in less than 12 minutes using weapons that seemed impossible. Everything he knew about space warfare had proven wrong. Captain Chen entered the medical bay, carrying a small tablet computer. She had visited him every day, sometimes to ask questions about Zarteth technology and politics, but mostly just to check on his condition. "Good morning, Admiral," Chen said, sitting in a chair beside his bed. "How are you feeling today?" "Confused," Vextar replied honestly. "Your weapons, your tactics, even your treatment of prisoners. Nothing makes sense to me." Chen nodded. "I understand. Let me explain something about humanity that might help you comprehend what happened." She activated her tablet, showing him images of Earth. Cities with millions of people, vast oceans, green forests, and snow-covered mountains. It looked like a peaceful, beautiful world. "This is our home planet," Chen said. "It looks calm and safe, doesn't it? But appearances can be deceiving." The images changed to show ancient battles, soldiers with swords and spears fighting on blood-soaked fields, massive armies clashing across continents, cities burning while their populations fled in terror. "Humans have been at war with each other for our entire recorded history," Chen explained. We've fought over territory, resources, religion, politics, and sometimes just because we didn't like each other. Every generation has produced new weapons and new ways to kill. Vextar studied the pictures with growing understanding. Your species fights itself? Constantly, Chen confirmed. We've had 2 global wars that killed millions of people. We developed nuclear weapons powerful enough to destroy our entire planet. We've fought in space, on other planets, in asteroid belts, and underwater. Warfare is written into our very nature. The images showed more recent conflicts. Battles on Mars between Earth forces and colonial rebels. Fighting in the asteroid mines between corporate security forces and worker militias. The devastating war around Europa that had killed hundreds of thousands. The Indomitable wasn't built to explore space, Chen continued. It was built to fight other human ships just as advanced and deadly as itself. Every weapon system, every defensive measure, every tactical program was designed by people who understood warfare at the deepest level. Vextar felt a chill run through his scaled body. Then we never had a chance. No, Chen said simply. The Zarteth are excellent at conquering peaceful civilizations, but you've never faced an enemy that was specifically designed for war. 2, warfare is a tool for expansion. To us, warfare is survival. She showed him technical specifications for human weapons, railguns that could punch through a planet's crust, plasma cannons that burned hotter than the core of a star, missile systems that could track and destroy targets across entire solar systems. These aren't our most powerful weapons, Chen explained. They're standard equipment on a patrol vessel. Our actual warships carry weapons that could sterilize entire worlds. Vextar looked at the specifications with growing horror. Why would you build such things? Because other humans built them first, Chen replied. Every advance in our military technology was driven by the fear that our enemies might develop something similar. We've been in an arms race with ourselves for thousands of years. The tablet showed images of Earth's current defenses, orbital platforms bristling with weapons, fleets of ships larger and more powerful than the Indomitable, defense systems that could track millions of targets simultaneously. Admiral, I need you to understand something very important, Chen said, her voice becoming serious. Humanity doesn't want to conquer the galaxy. We have enough problems managing our own territory, but we also won't allow anyone else to threaten our people or our allies. She showed him a star map marking human colonies and trade routes. This is human space. We've claimed it, we've settled it, and we've built defenses around it. Any species that respects our borders and follows basic diplomatic protocols is welcome to trade with us or even visit our worlds. The map changed to show Zarteth territory and their recent expansion routes. But species that attack our ships or threaten our people will face the full military power of Earth. What happened to your fleet was a warning, Admiral. A demonstration. Vextar felt his world shifting around him. The hegemony had built its power on the assumption that overwhelming force could defeat any opposition. They had never encountered a civilization that was better at warfare than they were. What happens to me now? He asked. Chen smiled, and for the first time since his capture it seemed genuinely friendly. That depends on you, Admiral. We're going to send you home with a message for your government. The hegemony can choose to respect human territory and perhaps establish peaceful relations with us. And if they choose to continue fighting? Chen's smile disappeared. Then we'll send the Second Fleet to visit every Zarteth world. The Second Fleet has 40 ships like the Indomitable, plus 12 dreadnoughts that are 3 times larger. Your choice is simple: peace or total destruction. Vextar thought about his people's proud military tradition, generations of warriors who had never known defeat. The idea of surrendering to an alien species would seem impossible to most Zarteth leaders. My government will not believe your claims, he said. They'll think I'm lying or that I've been brainwashed. Chen nodded. I expected that. We're sending more than just your testimony. She showed him video recordings of the battle, taken from multiple angles by the Indomitable's external cameras. The destruction of his fleet was recorded in perfect detail, showing exactly how human weapons had torn through Zarteth ships. We're also sending technical analysis of your ship designs and weapons. Chen added. Your engineers will be able to confirm that our technology is far beyond anything you currently possess. Dr. Kim approached with a final medical scanner. Admiral Vextar is cleared for travel, Captain. His injuries have healed completely. Chen stood up. Thank you, Doctor. Admiral, your ship has been repaired and restocked with food and fuel. You're free to return to hegemony space whenever you're ready. Vextar looked around the medical bay one more time. Human crew members worked alongside his surviving soldiers, sharing food and even attempting to communicate in broken versions of each other's languages. These people had destroyed his fleet without mercy, but they had also saved his life and treated his wounds. Captain Chen, he said, may I ask you a personal question? Of course. Do you enjoy warfare? Does killing give you pleasure? Chen was quiet for a long moment. No, Admiral. War is terrible and necessary. We're good at it because we have to be, not because we want to be. Every human hopes for a day when we won't need weapons anymore. She looked out through the medical bay's small window at the stars beyond. But until that day comes, we'll be ready for whatever threatens us or our friends. Vextar understood. Humanity was dangerous not because they were evil, but because they had learned hard lessons about survival. They had turned their greatest weakness into their greatest strength. Now he had to go home and convince his people to learn the same lesson before it was too late. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler's Edge, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of Earth's newest orbital station. Through the massive windows, she watched a steady stream of alien ships arriving and departing from the solar system. What had once been humanity's quiet corner of the galaxy had become the busiest diplomatic center in known space. Chen wore the uniform of the newly created United Earth Defense Force, with 4 gold stars on her collar, marking her rank as Fleet Admiral. The promotion had come with responsibilities she never expected when she was just a ship captain doing patrol duty. Admiral, the Altarian delegation has arrived, announced Lieutenant Colonel Park, her aide-de-camp. He had followed her from the Indomitable when she was promoted to command Earth's growing fleet. Chen nodded, still looking out at the stars. What do they want this time? Same as the others. They're requesting a mutual defense treaty. Apparently, 3 more systems have declared independence from Altarian rule since news of our victory spread. The Battle of Kepler's Edge had sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. When Admiral Vextar returned to hegemony space with video, evidence of humanity's military capabilities, the news had spread like wildfire. Within weeks, subject species across dozens of star systems began questioning why they accepted rule by species that couldn't even defeat a single human ship. The Q. Zardoth hegemony itself had collapsed in political chaos. Some leaders wanted immediate revenge against humanity, while others demanded peace negotiations. The civil war that followed had already freed 6 former hegemony worlds, with more rebellions starting every month. Any word from the Galactic Council? Chen asked. They've formally invited Earth to join as a permanent member with full voting rights, Park replied. They're also requesting that we provide security for the next council meeting. Apparently, several aggressive species have been making threats. Chen smiled at the irony. The Galactic Council was a loose confederation of peaceful civilizations that had spent centuries avoiding conflict through diplomacy and trade. They had never developed serious military forces because they had always been able to negotiate with aggressors or pay tribute to avoid war. Now they were asking humanity, the most militaristic species they had ever encountered, to provide protection. It was like sheep asking wolves to guard them from other wolves. Schedule a meeting with the council representatives, Chen said, and prepare the 3rd Fleet for deployment. If we're going to be galactic peacekeepers, we need to do it properly. The door to the observation deck opened, and Admiral Vextar entered. 6 months of working with humans had changed him significantly. His military uniform now bore the insignia of a special advisor to Earth's diplomatic corps. The proud warrior, who had once commanded the destruction of entire civilizations, now spent his days helping prevent wars. Admiral Chen, Vextar said in much improved English, I have disturbing news from the hegemony territories. Chen turned to face him. Over the months of working together, they had developed a professional respect that bordered on friendship. Vextar's insights into galactic politics had proven invaluable, and his first-hand testimony about human military capabilities had prevented at least 3 potential conflicts. "What's happening?" Chen asked. "My sources report that the Kithra Empire is massing ships near the former hegemony border. They may be planning to claim the territory for themselves while our people are distracted by civil war." Chen frowned. The Kithara were another aggressive species that expanded through conquest, though they were reportedly more advanced than the Zarteth had been. Intelligence reports suggested they had been watching the hegemony's collapse with great interest. "How? Many ships?" she asked. "At least 50, possibly more. They're being careful to avoid human patrol routes." Park checked his datapad. "Admiral, our intelligence networks confirm this report. The Kithara appear to be planning a major offensive." Chen walked back to the window and looked out at the peaceful scene outside. Alien cargo ships from dozens of species moved slowly through, Earth's defensive perimeter protected by human patrol vessels. Diplomatic shuttles carried representatives to and from the various peace negotiations taking place on Luna Station. It had taken humanity decades to build this level of stability in their own star systems. The idea of watching it all collapse into another round of galactic warfare was deeply troubling. "Options?" Chen asked. "The Second Fleet is currently patrolling the hegemony border regions," Park reported. "We could position them to intercept any Kithara advance, but that would mean taking sides in the hegemony civil war." Vextar spoke up. "Admiral, with respect, you have already taken sides. Every species in the galaxy knows that humanity opposes aggressive expansion. Your very existence threatens every empire built on conquest." Chen understood his point. By demonstrating that peaceful civilizations could have effective militaries, humanity had fundamentally changed galactic politics. Species that had accepted domination for centuries were now questioning why they couldn't defend themselves. "Bring up the tactical display," Chen ordered. A holographic map of local space appeared in the center of the room, showing ship positions, trade routes, and political boundaries. The former hegemony territory was marked in red, while areas of active rebellion were highlighted in yellow. Kithara forces appeared as clusters of orange dots along the border. If the Kithara succeed in conquering the former hegemony worlds, they'll become the dominant military power in this sector, Chen analyzed. They'll have the resources to challenge human space directly. "Exactly," Vextar agreed. "And unlike my people, the Kithara are patient strategists. They won't make the mistake of attacking you directly until they're certain they can win." Chen studied the map for several minutes, calculating distances, response times, and force ratios. The mathematics of interstellar warfare had become second nature to her over the past few months. "Send a message to the Kithara Emperor," she finally decided. "Inform him that Earth recognizes the independence of all former hegemony worlds. Any attempt to conquer these systems will be considered an act of aggression against Earth's allies." Park looked concerned. "Admiral, that's essentially a declaration of war if they proceed." "No," Chen replied. "It's a declaration of peace. We're telling them that the age of conquest is over. Species that want to expand their territory will have to do it through trade, diplomacy, and colonization of uninhabited worlds." She turned to Vexitar. "Admiral, I want you to carry this message personally. Your reputation as a former hegemony. Commander will give it additional weight." Vextar straightened to attention. "It would be my honor, Admiral Chen." As he left to prepare for his mission, Chen returned to watching the traffic outside the station. Human patrol ships moved alongside vessels from dozens of alien species, all protected by the same defensive network that guarded Earth itself. Dr. Harrison, now serving as Earth's chief science advisor, joined her at the window. "Penny for your thoughts, Admiral?" Chen smiled at the old expression. "I'm thinking about irony, Doctor. Humanity spent thousands of years trying to stop fighting each other. Now we've become the galaxy's peacekeepers by being better at war than anyone else." "Perhaps that's what the galaxy needed," Harrison suggested. "A species that understands both the necessity of war and the value of peace." Outside, a former Zarteth transport ship docked at the station's main bay. Refugees from the hegemony civil war disembarked under the protection of human security forces. Many of them would eventually find new homes on worlds that had recently gained their independence. Chen watched the scene with satisfaction. Humanity had gained something they never expected when they first reached for the stars: the chance to use their greatest weakness as their greatest gift to others. The galaxy was changing. Old empires were falling while new alliances formed under the protection of human fleets. It wouldn't be easy to maintain peace across so many star systems, but Chen believed it was possible. After all, if humans could learn to stop fighting each other, perhaps they could teach the same lesson to everyone else. The stars seemed brighter now, filled with the promise of a future where strength served peace instead of conquest. Admiral Chen smiled and returned to her duties, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.